All right, let's call to order the City of Newberg City Council Work Session, August 1st, 2022. Meeting's now called to order. There is an agenda in Spanish on the website. A roll call, please, Sue.
Councilor McBride is on vacation. Councilor Mildenberger.
Here.
Councilor Urinell Holloman.
Here.
Councilor Kilberg.
Here.
Mayor Rogers.
Here.
Councilor Bacon.
Here.
Councilor Finley.
Here.
Councilor Bacon, how you feeling?
I need a massive nap for like a month.
A month nap? All right. Requisition that. We'll requisition it.
Thank you.
All right, next. And Sue, how do you feel since we're doing, you sound a little.
I'm on
groggy.
week 3 from recovering from COVID, but
Oh,
I'm fine. But man, talk about a 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
This one knock your socks off, that's for sure.
that's no, and you just went through a round too. All right, well, that's it. Enough of it. All right. Yeah. All right. Okay. Review of the council agenda and meeting. Anything for this evening, folks? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
is this where I would ask to have something added or is that later?
For the agenda tonight,
Yeah.
I think adding something tonight is good. Go ahead. Yeah, Jim, James.
I guess Councilor Gilbert, you're looking to add an item to the agenda tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know I think it would be in the business session. Seems like what I'm recalling is, I think it was Denise had mentioned the mushrooms. I can't remember the name. Psilocybe. And in the work session, and so we added it to the business session. Was it the
That's-
same evening?
That's correct. It wasn't the same evening, but Councilor Bacon did raise the psilocybin issue, I think 2 meetings ago, and then we came back the following meeting as it was part of the agenda to talk about a potential ban, either temporary or permanent ban.
Okay.
You know,
Hmm.
And we did vote to have it banned, right?
That's correct.
That's
That's
the vote.
correct.
So
Yeah.
that's what.
Yeah.
And as
We-
far as, I mean, just to the extent it helps, when it comes to adding items to the agenda, the council can vote to add certain items to the agenda at given periods of time. You will occasionally see me hop in, depending on what the item is, to suggest to make suggestions on timing for the council to consider. But that is something that the council can evaluate whether they want to add items to an agenda at a particular time.
Sorry. So that could be done in the work session and we could add it to this evening's business session if the council agreed?
Correct. It could be raised as a potential item to add during the work session, and then the council could, vote and agree to add something to a regular business session. And then typically, I'll usually have some input on those items if they're not already on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Is there something in particular you're proposing?
Well, yes, thank you for asking, Mayor. I had originally thought the initiative with regard to homeless camps was going to be on the agenda. And I'll just put it all out there. I would like to move, because it appears to me from the research I've done that all of the signatures required will be there, pretty much undoubtedly. So I was going to recommend that we have an emergency meeting. I would move to have an emergency meeting by the 10th and go ahead and just vote to take, well, not to vote, to take action. I think I've been doing research and the words are kind of blurring, where Sue would file with the council via a meeting, that petition or the initiative based on the signatures. And my understanding from what I've been studying is that to get it on the November ballot would require a meeting by the 10th. And I just thought it would be a good faith effort for the citizens, since it's going to happen anyway, to not delay it until May. That was all. So thank you. I'm sorry to kind of. hijack it.
Take that into consideration. Okay, as you know, as we mentioned earlier today, the thought was to get it, we couldn't get it, we didn't have enough time to get it onto this one. It was going to be the next city council meeting, which will be the 15th. But if you say that that's past that date, I can take a thought here and see what people think. If you want to try to add it and have an emergency meeting is what we're asking for. And we'll also have to make sure the 10th or somewhere between now and then is reasonable for people to get that in the works and all.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd want to probably correspond with the city manager and the city recorder on the timing component. Off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with a 10th deadline. I know that there's some components with the Yamhill County elections. I want to say it's tied to maybe to the 19th with certain submissions. But what we can do is I can coordinate with the city recorder and city manager and circle back with council if that's something council wants to do, a special meeting, that is.
If you'll, what's the word? Just bear with me. I looked it up on it's called the County, City and District Initiative and Referendum Manual on the Secretary of State website, and they have a calendar on page 6 for city initiatives. It would need to be an August 10th date for the city recorder to file a qualified initiative with the city council. Does that make sense?
So, yes, Counselor. So the county so the state's manual is saying that the city would have to file an initiative by August 10th. Okay, I can certainly take a look as well at that. And if that's something that the council wants to do, need a council vote to kind of approve setting that meeting, but we can explore, we can certainly explore that. If that's the council's desire.
Just to put that, so we've got Monday's the 8th and Tuesday's the 9th. So it would probably have to be one of those two if we're thinking about it. So. All right, thoughts? Who wants to start? Jefferson? Sorry, Paul.
Oh, no.
My light was on.
Oh, sorry. I defer. Yes.
I'm confused even what we're talking about. So we're saying that the signatures have been certified, then why do we need to have an emergency meeting? All the signatures were certified and they have enough signatures to be on the petition, then why do we need to do anything at all?
Good question. No, I don't believe they've all been certified. There are more, I think from the numbers I got, I think there are several hundred more than are needed. So even if some are, disqualified, it's pretty, and I think they're continuing to even get signatures. So it looks very, very likely that they'll have enough to put that on the ballot. So if we miss the deadline, it'll wait till May of 2023. But if
Follow on.
Pardon me.
I think you have more information than all of us. So I don't have any update on signatures. I haven't seen any email come through that this is that this is going forward. So I don't know where you're getting the information, but I feel like we need to have some sort of update from the city as to where they're. I thought the deadline already passed. So if they're still collecting signatures, then that's great, but that would be for the May ballot. So I don't know what we need to meet on an emergency meeting about. I want to understand where they are at in the process of the signatures that have been submitted by the deadline, which I believe was the 18th.
Okay. Sue, I don't know, how much of an update do you have, Sue? Do you know? So was the deadline the 18th and nothing was submitted, or James, sorry. Yep.
At this point, I'd defer to the city attorney to respond. I have to remain neutral, so I wasn't prepared to give a report, and sorry, my voice keeps dying.
So I don't have information on signatures being certified to date either. I'm not aware of the city having reviewed and certified any signatures that have been submitted. I can certainly check on that and where that is in the process. I know that at least as recent as last week, the Secretary of State hadn't received any signatures in connection with the initiative petition that I know of. And so typically the way that it works with respect to initiative petitions is that signatures are submitted, they're reviewed by the city for sufficiency and certified. They also go to the state for a signature compilation review as well. And at least to date, neither one of those have occurred to my knowledge.
And I, I have no additional knowledge at this time, other than what James just said. I don't know the statistical number that have been sent in as yet to the county or what the county has done yet. I do believe that the signature collection process is still underway.
I'm so confused though. It's still underway, but I thought that the deadline to submit signatures already happened. So
Yeah, I'll
I
try
feel
to
like
explain.
some counselors have more information than
Yeah,
others.
I'll try to explain. Well, anyway, what I received from an email from one of the petitioners asking, providing an update. Again, it was one of the petitioners who said that they would not meet the deadline, and correct me anyway, I'm sure I will be corrected if wrong, but that they had not met the deadline for the first pass. So then it would have to be pushed to the May election potentially. So the request or the question that was asked was, would we, number one, be willing to talk about some potential compromise on the language, I suppose, on the petition? I don't know where that's gone. So, and then, the other idea was, well, it was directed to me, but I'd imagine it'd be the council, right? So, and then, the other idea was, would we take it upon ourselves because, as Peggy said, that the eventuality will be that it will be on the ballot. Would we put it on ourselves in November is my understanding.
Okay, I understand now.
Okay, all right. So that's sort of where we are. And, if the dates are right, then it would entail an emergency meeting before the 10th is what we understand at this point. Yes, sir.
And of course, for clarity, while there's a ballot initiative underway, staff are extremely limited in the words that they can say under Oregon law. So staff cannot give opinions, elected folks can.
We sort of clear anyway? Sort of maybe.
Mayor, if I could add one more point. So thank you, Will. You're right that staff is restricted in what they can say. On the timeline piece, Councilor Chehalem, just so that we're all aligned and on the same page, with respect to initiative petitions, there is a signature requirement of obtaining 15% of the signatures of the voters in the last election. The timeline with respect to initiative petitions in particular is a 2-year timeline to qualify for the elections that kind of stem from that period of time. So even if through the initiative petition process, the number of signatures is not sufficient to qualify for the November election, that 2-year time period still extends to the date of the filing of that initial petition. So there are subsequent elections that the petition can indeed qualify for.
All righty. We can why don't we do this? Why don't we see now if we'd like to take this up for any further discussion, or would we like to just explore whether or not whether the 10th is the date, right? And we've got that certain, and then what we can do, we can do with the petition as presented. Because, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I have some issues with the language in the petition. So that would be a sticking point for me. And that's, but whether or not that is something that can even be discussed or not, I don't know. Right.
Yes, it would be helpful for, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would be helpful for the city attorney's office if council wants to set a special meeting for the 10th and wants my office to align with Councilor Kilberg on the dates, that just getting that direction would be very, very helpful.
let me just get that first. How do we feel? Just give a general sense as to whether you'd like the city attorney's office to pursue the date anyway, to know where we stand.
I'm for it if we're close, but I have
Oh.
no idea how
Yeah.
many signatures
Right.
would even deem that we were close. You know, and I'd be willing to discuss it at that point.
Okay.
I can go either way. I'm less concerned about the issue and more concerned about the precedent it sets for initiative, you know, so I guess that means like if tomorrow there was a petition for my recall, then are we, or any other issue, are we setting a precedence where instead of going through the due process in order to get on the ballot, the council makes the decision to do that? And so I guess the process, I feel like the process is set up like that for a reason. So like I said, I can go either way. I will be out of town next week, so there's that too, but so I'm less concerned about the issue before us and more around what that sets up as a precedent for this kind of thing.
Please.
It's basically what I was gonna say. But yeah, I mean, I am a little concerned that this is just coming to us right now and this has been going on for a while. Just to have a direct comment to you. I mean, I've extended my hand to have conversations with you. I would like to have these type of conversations beforehand so that I can better understand. And I can see that there's a group here that I'm sure is in support of the petition. And so I would like to just say to the audience that it is an open invitation to sit down and have a conversation. I don't like to have a divisive atmosphere. I truly didn't even know an update as to where the petition was at right now. So if I'm trying to get up to speed right here in an open meeting environment, which is super uncomfortable. And I also would be open to language revision. So I have concerns about the petition and all of the housing options that it will limit. So I would have been totally open to a phone call or an email or a coffee or anything. And I know a couple of you in the room have taken me up on it, but I would like to do that going forward. So I do have concern though with, it does feel like you have a lot more information than the rest of council. And I would agree that it does set a precedent, and I don't know why we would extend it in this one and not on my recall, quite frankly. But I would be open to it. I will be open to it.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate the precedent issue.
Can I speak, Mayor?
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead, Denise.
Okay, so two things, recalls and city code are totally different. So there's that, number one. Second of all, there isn't a precedent because it's already been done. We did do that before we had this, we had a initiative come before us. The city had a committee that that looked at it, and our decision was we could let it go as it was because it was very poorly written. We could rewrite it and help them get it passed, or do nothing. And we went with let it go the way he wrote it. And we had great arguments against it because it was poorly written. So I would be open to hearing more about it, because I do think we have options. You know, we know it's poorly written right now. We could write it, make it better, that it would be good for everyone, or we could let it go and argue against it as a political people ourselves, counselors, not the city, or we could just do nothing and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, just a couple of things. So, you know, as you said, Elise, I extended an offer actually to set a meeting for this Friday, anytime on Friday, to talk with a couple of the petitioners, and I have not been taken up on that as yet. And as I said, it would, some of the language that I think might strengthen it, at least clarify it. So anyway, so that's been extended, but it sounds like everybody is willing to take it up. James, if we can do a little bit of of work on that, that would be great. And then C, one thing that would probably be helpful for everyone's clarification would be maybe something routed through the city manager and the city attorney regarding where we stand from the petitioner's viewpoint and what it is that you'd like us to do. I received the one email, but it should probably go through city manager and the city attorney, and then we'll know better where we stand if we do meet in emergency. So, sound good? That work? Okay. All righty. Anything else for the council agenda and meeting this evening?
Just so I'm clear, Mr. Mayor, so my intention is for my office to go back, of course, get aligned and confirm on the August 10th date. If that's the date, then we would look for council to maybe hold a special meeting next week. We can figure out schedules Monday or Tuesday. And at that time, we could discuss the initiative petition. We should have a better idea of where it stands as far as signature submission. Councilor Bacon already laid out very well, based on past experience, some of the options. So if it pleases council, I'd like to kind of further elaborate on those and can be prepared to discuss those next week. Did I summarize that sufficiently? Okay.
And so just so everyone knows, it wasn't like we had heard this request and that actually you all had been working on an RCA for the meeting on the 15th anyway. So this would push it up, as long as that's okay schedule wise, this would push that up a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay.
Hey, Rick, do
Yeah.
you, Mayor, sorry,
No
I'm trying.
worries.
First of all, I want to apologize. I didn't mean to blindside everyone. It was just that I was reading this manual from the Secretary of State, and it's not talking about certified signatures that have gone to the county or the Secretary of State. It's just signatures that our city clerk would have looked at and said, yeah, they have enough, and to send on to the county clerk. Let's see, I had another thought, but it zipped in and out. So thank you. Oh, so the next one is a question. Then during the business session, do we need to have a motion made, seconded, and passed with regard to an emergency meeting?
That's a good question. Thank you, Counselor. So we don't need a motion or a second to set the meeting. I've got what we call informal direction through this work session to explore those dates, and then we can set the meeting based on counselor schedules. We will need to provide notice of that special meeting, of course, in compliance with the public records law, which I'll coordinate with the city recorder and city manager to get that done.
And of course, staff will support any meeting date that you guys choose.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll say is that there is a time, and just this is for general edification, so there is a timeline for getting items generally on the agenda because we want to make sure that people are publicly noticed as to what we're talking about. So yeah, so anyway. Okay, all right. On to anything else for council agenda and meeting, anything, folks? Denise, anything? No? Okay, moving on to council business items. Any business items for this evening beyond what we've talked about? No? All righty, and then this meeting is adjourned. We'll now move into the Newberg Urban Renewal Agency meeting for August 1st, 2022. Am I handing this to you, my friend?
Yes, thank
All right.
you. So we will call the meeting to order. Sue, can we have a roll call, please? Sure, if my voice stops, just continue without me. Counselor Mike McBride is absent tonight. He's on vacation. Jefferson Mildenberger.
Here.
Elise.
Here.
Peggy.
Here.
Rick.
Yes, here.
Denise.
Here.
And Stephanie here. So Mr. Rex pointed out, oh, there you are, to me that the first thing we need to do that is not on the agenda is to elect a new chair and vice chair for 2022. So I will open the nominations now.
I would like to nominate Jefferson for chair, vice chair.
Yes, second.
Any other nominations? It's been moved and seconded for Jefferson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
It passes. Okay, we'll open it for vice chair.
All right, I'll keep going. I'd like to nominate Mike McBride since he's not here for vice chair.
You'll love it. Okay.
Go, all right.
Any other nominations? Okay, I have a first and a second for Mike. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
All those opposed?
If he doesn't want to do it, we
Motion
can always.
passes. Mr. Chair, it's yours.
Oh, thank you. I guess I'm opening a meeting, which I have no instructions on.
That's
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggs. Yes.
This is the business session. So really. Yep, there are
Shine
no,
from,
so no consent items and now open for public comment.
Okay. Yeah, as we have no consent items, we will open for public comment. Is there any public comment too?
I do not have any for the urban renewal meeting.
Okay, hearing no public comments, we can move to new business. It looks like we have a general update from the Urban Renewal Agency items from Mr. Rex.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Doug Rux, Community Development Director. So welcome to 2022. I have 8 items to go over with you this evening because there's additional work that the agency board is going to have to accomplish over the next 6, 7, 8 months. Well, actually through budget. So let's stay until next June 30th. First piece is the Urban Renewal Plan. So it has been recorded. A copy is in your packet. So we received a copy from the City Council as required by state law in ORS 457. We recorded the document on the effective date of that ordinance, which was 30 days later. We've sent a copy to the County Assessor's Office, which is required by ORS 457. They've acknowledged receipt of that. And so they've got work to do because they've got to go through the parcel bases and start segregating of what's in the urban renewal portion, what will be in the taxing district portions of all of that. So I received communications from the assessor actually last week that they are in that process. Second item is the Urban Renewal Agency bylaws. So these were adopted back in April of 2021. And in those bylaws, it was included a recommendation to establish an advisory committee. An advisory committee, think of it sort of like your planning commission. They do the heavy lifting. They do a lot of the questions and so forth. And then they would forward on recommendations to the agency board for your consideration. I've used this type of system in other communities. It's worked very well. There are some very prescriptive categories of the citizens or individuals that would be included. That's in your packet. But for the public, it would be a property owner or business owner within the urban renewal district, residents within the urban renewal district, persons with knowledge of finance, accounting, and economics, persons with real estate development or land planning experience, persons knowledgeable of affordable housing, development and programs, persons with knowledge of public services, utilities, or infrastructure. A member of the Urban Renewal Agency Board would be on that committee, and a student member, which is following your other guidelines for all your other commissions and so forth on the city side of the ledger. Now, that does not mean that you have to have one person in each category, but those would be the categories to be able to draw from. In addition to that, there would be 2 non-voting ex officio members, and those would come from the taxing districts. And so I included in your report examples like TVF&R, CPRD, could be the county, could be soil and water conservation. So one of those taxing districts, or I should say 2 of those, would be non-voting members. So we're not looking for, you don't have to do a vote tonight, but it would be good to get kind of the head shake of, yes, you are interested in establishing that to follow your bylaws, because we would need to go through the recruitment process. And so staff would suggest as the city's going through its recruitment process for its boards and commissions and committees, we use that same timeline. That would mean something would come back in front of you in January, roughly, for appointments. And so they're appointed by, nominated by the chair. and then ratified by the remaining balance of the board itself. Also, I would talk with the city attorney, and of course, the city manager, and make sure that there's nothing else we have to do in the municipal code for this particular committee, because remember, when we set this up, there's a section in the code in 2.40, which has the Urban Renewal Agency, lays it out. That's part of what required vote of the chair and the vice chair. It's also in your bylaws. So we want to make sure that we've got all the legal pieces of that all put together before that committee is formally constituted. So with that, I think I'd turn it back over to the chair to see if there's any feedback, questions, or if there's some head nodding consensus that yes, you would like to follow forward with the bylaws as they're written and form a committee.
I believe we would. I think we're looking for 7
Yes.
individuals to join the 2 ex officio members, and I'll open it up to comment from the group.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I'm totally for it. And then since we've got the microphone, if there's people out there that might be interested, we all would love to know about it potentially. So another opportunity to volunteer.
I'm in favor of it as well.
I'm hearing head
And
nods.
that's a
I'm hearing head
recommendation
nods
to move-
and
Please
seeing
move forward
yeses.
in
Okay.
securing this committee. Oh, Denise? She just wanted a head nod.
All right. The next item on the agenda is our intergovernmental agreement. So when the plan was put together and the Citizens Advisory Committee was working through all of this, we were crunching the numbers the first time and the second time and so forth. The committee, and we shared this with the city council, is that they identified not spending more than $10 million in administrative costs. And that the money should be going towards the infrastructure, the roads, the sewer, and the water that would attract the new businesses, which would create new buildings and new tax increment, which would create new jobs. So with all of that, then the cost of actually running the program essentially said that the city was going to backfill that with staff time and resources to be able to implement the plan over the course of the next 30 years. On the modeling we did, it would take probably about 5 or 6 years before there would be enough tax increment revenue to actually hire a position to formally administer the program. In the interim, you got me to do that. And city manager and I've talked about potential models of how that might work with economic development and so forth. So more to come on that in the future. But we also need to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city to provide services. So the finance department will be processing payroll in the future, helping putting together the budget. If we go out for contracts for projects for capital, and we eventually get to bonds, the city will be assisting in that. Eventually, there'll be human resource assistance as well, as there's a position hired in the future. We, of course, have administration because the city manager, wearing his other hat, is the administrator. So I need to actually refer to him as the administrator this evening. And then, of course, we have engineering that's supporting that as well. And so to make sure that the city and the agency are clear of what the roles and responsibilities are, the city attorney and I would work together to prepare an intergovernmental agreement that would come back before the agency board for your consideration and hopefully approval. And then we would also take that on to the city council so they could review it and consider it, and hopefully approve that as well. So that will set the standards for the legal structure of how these 2 different political entities interact with one another. So again, nothing for you to do this evening, but work for James and I to do in the future. Item number 4 was the budget. So tax increment revenue collections were modeled to begin in fiscal year 23-24. In the plan, it actually uses the year FYE, final fiscal year ending 2024. So we're anticipating we're going to get about $260,000 of revenue in that first year. So again, getting back to the prior topic, we're going to have the assistance of the finance department in order to put together that particular budget. It will be a relatively simple budget, but we have to make sure we get all of the categories established correctly because that budget is going to move forward for the next 30 years. And since you have to keep a 5-year rolling, whatever account numbers have to be set up in our new financial software system that the city's getting, urban renewal will have to be plugged into that as well. So there's a bunch of work, again, that community development and finance and administration are going to have to do on that particular topic. The budget committee, and I need to talk with James about this in more detail, will also be functioning as the budget committee for the Urban Renewal Agency. So they'll, like everything else, they'll be wearing 2 hats. So take your ball cap, turn it around. So that's coming up. So that will start in January when we start putting together the budget. The 5th item was the cost of preparing the urban renewal plan. So the city chose to use Fund 14, where we hired the consultants in order to do the legal descriptions, prepare the feasibility study and the plan and the report. So that's not general fund money, it's separate fund, Fund 14 Economic Development Fund. But this council also adopted a resolution indicating that they would seek reimbursement of that expenditure of funds from the Urban Renewal Agency to pay back Fund 14 to make it whole. So there's going to need to be some paperwork addressed for that. I've included in your packet the different resolutions that the city council had adopted. So originally we started with $100,000, and with cost we had to add an additional $10,000. Then we had to redo the work that cost an additional $20,000 for a budget allocation of $130,000. Where we ended up is we spent $125,988.32. I'm putting all that material together. So we'll have to prepare an IGA between the city and the agency. The agency will have to adopt a resolution expressing your intent to repay that $125,988.32 back to the city to put back into Fund 14. And Fund 14 is used for economic development purposes for grants and loans and so forth for businesses. So that's some additional work we need to do. And again, the city attorney and I will have to coordinate in putting that material together. Item number 6, amendment to the urban renewal plan. So in the first version of the plan, we had included all of the land within the urban growth boundary down in the riverfront area. And then of course the extensions upriver and Blaine Street and the 108 acres roughly in the downtown area. With the feedback that we received, we had to retool that proposal and we removed all the lands that were not annexed into the city limits. Well, while that was going on, we were in negotiations on a real estate transaction to buy some land from West Rock for expansion of the water treatment plant. So we had to take that land out and it was not in the urban renewal plan that was adopted by the city council. The groundwater treatment plant program is moving forward on the city's part of all of this, but there is a roadway, what we call the Bluff Road, or some generically in the plans called the 14th Street Extension Project. That would be on the north border and the east border of the land where the new groundwater treatment plant would go. And so one of the things we want to do is do an amendment to the plan to include that 2.61 acre annexation area that's in process before the city and bring that in and put that in the urban renewal program so that when improvements are done in the future is that the urban renewal program is building that road that would go around that water treatment plant expansion. So as I put in the report, it's be good to have the committee, which you've already gave me the head nods of yes, so that they can vet all of that. So I'm looking at the second half of the fiscal year 22-23 of putting all of that body of work together. We'll have to hire a consultant to do the legal description. There's some prescriptive requirements in ORS 457 about doing an expansion of that particular size. But that's something that would come back in front of the agency board for your final decision. It would not require it to go to the city council. The 7th item is the logo. So the city of Newberg has its logo. And so as we went through this process of preparing the plan, is like, well, what's the Urban Renewal Agency's logo? And we were busy with lots of other things. And so we chose to set that aside, but now I had to bring it back up. So I talked with the administrator, and I talked with Ezekiel, the community engagement staff with the city, and we talked about putting something together. And Ezekiel and I talked, and we said, well, we probably don't want to have the board sit down and try to design it. Maybe it's better if we bring you some ideas, and then you can give us the feedback about what you might like or what might not like. And so that'll be able to be used, on a website. It'll be for the agency's letterhead and other communication pieces that we use. So that's something else we've got on a work program. We want to have that put together and wrapped up by the end of the calendar year as well. So a lot of the stuff trying to get set up for what happens on January 1st, 2023 and after. So we will bring some stuff back with you. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. So we'll have Ezekiel get creative. The last piece is outreach. And so the city council members had received, feedback as we were going through the urban renewal plan and report development process and so forth. And so I put in this particular memo is from the agency perspective, what would you like us to do more of as we move forward to informing the community about what the urban renewal program intent and what its goals and projects and so forth that are identified in that. So we currently have a website. The city has a website that's up there with every piece of, I would say, with a wealth of information that has been created since January of 2020. So all of the citizen advisory committee meetings, planning commission, city council stuff, service organizations, we did presentations to the ordinance and a lot of materials there if you want to take the time to read through it all. We got an FAQ that's there. Actually, we drafted up kind of a preliminary about, because that FAQ was all leading up to having the city council consider the urban renewal plan. And now we need a different FAQ about what do we do from that point moving forward. So Ezekiel and I've talked a little bit about that as well. But we also thought about, is there information that you would like to push out on social media through our different platforms? Should we continue to give presentations to the different civic organizations at their meetings? Should there be an opinion article that comes from the agency as a board, as a body that might go into the Newberg graphic? And there might be other ideas that you may have to kind of continue that public education, public engagement about the urban renewal program as we move forward. Again, we won't have any funds until fiscal year 23-24. But if things just kind of go silent and then people start to, what's going on, because we don't have a system set up to push information out and keep people informed. Any thoughts on that one?
Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think certainly updates would be worthwhile. And how we push them out. I think all the above would be great at different times, I think. Certainly as we, gear up to actual projects starting, then updates probably more regularly, I would hope. At least that'd be my thought.
It might be nice to do a kickoff campaign once we hit that fiscal year and we have that momentum and we have that budget, just to reintroduce folks in the district about what's happening. Or what's not actually happening right away, just to keep people involved and understanding.
I could say that I have received phone calls that have asked, well, when's the first project going to start?
And maybe we can, as a group, try to really be thoughtful of groups that we're not hitting. I mean, I think just the fact that the urban renewal came up as of concern, kind of at the 11th hour, I feel like we need to take that to heart and really, realize that people were missed as part of the conversation, unintentionally, of course, but they were missed. And so how can we bring people into the conversation that haven't been in it historically?
Yeah, and I think, having worked on that Urban Renewal Plan, that body was really focused on making sure there was lots of infrastructure. And we talked about it at length about how a lot of that stuff you just don't see. When you drive by that site, you don't see all the stuff that's underground. And so I think it's important to make sure that people know that even if, there's not a mural on the side of a building, that doesn't mean that it's not working. And to make sure people know that there's a lot of infrastructure that goes in before the stuff that you can see.
Mr. Chair, not sure on the timing, but maybe after the kickoff campaign. But I think the more we can push out, the more people will be informed. One thought was to get the word out via water bills, maybe again, that there will be kind of a town hall, for lack of a better word, it's probably something better. Periodically, maybe a Saturday one for people who can't get to them during the week, maybe a weekday evening for a while. And then if people don't show up, it's their own fault. They were informed, right? The information went out that these are the times we're having these, flex the schedule. So you're not going to get 100%, but get most people.
As long as it's not a Saturday during hunting season.
That's right.
All right, any other feedback to our 8 items here?
Sure. The other thing is, I don't want to take work away from Ezekiel potentially, but is the logo something that we could push through the school, push through GFU or PCC or something? See if there's a class that'd be interested in it.
We have a flag.
Sorry.
Definitely, we can talk about that opportunity. We have 5 or 6 months, a little bit of time.
Any other follow-up items?
Just one minor thing about the logo. As long as at the end of the day, we end up with both a bitmap and a vector image so that we can use it in all applications.
Yeah, you'll want the t-shirt.
Member Bacon, did you have anything to add?
No, I agree with what's been said.
Denise, you can make the logo.
Yeah, I don't think so. Thank you. That wasn't said. I don't agree with that.
I don't think you'd want mine because it looked like Bill the cat, so. All right, that's all I had,
That's
Mr.
all.
Chair.
Excellent. I've been actually really looking forward to banging that gavel, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never got to.
You
Mine
never
was all,
did?
no, 'cause mine was all.
Oh, meeting
on
adjourned.
Zoom.
Thank you.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I do actually believe in this instance, it probably won't fit in 13 minutes. So,
All right, let's recess until 7 o'clock sharp. This meeting of the City Council Business Session for August 1st, 2022 is now called to order. There is an agenda in Spanish on our website. A roll call, please, Sue.
Counselor McBride is absent. Counselor Mildenberger,
Present.
Counselor Yarnell Holloman,
Here.
Counselor Kilberg,
Present.
Mayor Rogers,
Present.
Counselor Bacon,
Here.
Counselor Finley. Here.
Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to item 4A, the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce Q4 Visitor Center Report. Good evening, Merrill.
Hey, whew, I hear myself. All right, hello. Good evening, counselors, mayor, and everybody else. My name is Meryl Kunkel, and I am the administrative assistant at the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy to give this quarterly report for the Visitor Center in the stead of our executive director, Scott Parker, who had eye surgery today and is unable to see. Since we are at the quarter of your fiscal year, I thought it would be helpful to provide not only a summary of the previous quarter, but also a visual on the stats that I've gathered of the Visitor Center over the past fiscal year. This is as comprehensive of a look back as possible. Keep in mind that I started in November, Scott started in September, so many of these stats are from then forward. First things first. You will notice on the quarterly report submitted that we have had a significant increase in our overhead and utilities. The previous operating expenses were based on 2020 calculations when the building wasn't fully occupied, taxes weren't fully assessed, and services weren't provided for a full year. This increase in operating expenses is based on calculations from 2021 when there was a complete year of occupancy, services, and taxes. Moving forward, we should not expect an increase of that size from the property management company due in part to the expected consistency of overhead costs from year to year. The chamber is financially responsible for the support and operation of the visitor center, and the funds provided by the city generally only cover rent, overhead, and 46% of the utilities. It does not cover the full cost of personnel to staff the visitor center. Now to the stats. The visitor center is located in the core of our downtown, which is the gateway to wine country. Over the past fiscal year, we have had over 1,000 walk-in visitors and over 500 phone calls and emails to the visitor center. On average, 23% of visitors ask about wineries, 31 ask for tourist pamphlets and maps, which also includes winery maps. 44% ask for general information, including local restaurants, venues, shopping, events, and other information. And roughly 2% ask about local trails and biking options. When you look at the average expenditure for overnight visitors in Yamhill County for 2020, stats from the Travel Oregon website, visitors on average spend $69 per person per day. Given that we have had over 1,000 walk-ins and visitors, we can assume that there is potentially $69,000 worth of tourism revenue going directly from the visitor center and out to our local economy. We often receive phone calls, emails, and in-person thank yous from the businesses we send visitors to. These dollar amounts are 2020 numbers that we know are trending upward, and we have seen a steady increase in walk-ins and calls just this past quarter. Beyond the direct impact provided by having a visitor center that brings visitors in and then sends them out to patronize local businesses, the visitor center also plays an important role for local residents, businesses, and organizations alike, offering tourist information, pamphlets, maps, phone books, resources, connections, phone numbers, and support. We are a multifaceted, welcoming center to all. We have mailed relocation packets and tourist information to locations nationally and internationally. This past quarter, we have gotten requests from Wisconsin, Arizona, North Carolina, and my personal favorite, the North Pole, Alaska. We have served as the ticket pickup location for several local events, including the Oregon Symphony and Chehalem Valley Vaudeville, a 2-night sold-out community building and family-friendly variety show. We will be the only pickup location for the Berg Bucks program, which is close to launching. This past quarter, we've hosted a wedding for a local resident who was rained out and who needed a last-minute Hail Mary location. This past quarter, the Visitor Center also hosted a 5-week photography class from local photographer Todd Klingler, and we have seen various organizations from George Fox and the Rotary Foundation to a multitude of other businesses use the conference room and workspaces. The Visitor Center has hosted 3 artists this past quarter. That's what I meant to say, totaling 6 artists since December 2021, and more than 100 First Friday Art Walk visitors. I think it's important to note that the Visitor Center does not take a commission for any of the artwork that's sold out of our location, so 100% of the profits go directly to the local artist or maker. Over this past fiscal year, we have given out cases of KN95 masks, surgical masks, and gloves to local businesses and still have supplies for businesses in need. Another important aspect of the Visitor Center, which I often think can be overlooked, is the support the Visitor Center provides to local residents, especially seniors. Just in my time working at the Visitor Center, I have fielded questions from across the spectrum. From where can I go buy an olive tree, to what local restaurant is a great venue for my mother's birthday, to a single mom looking for housing options. From seniors asking for organizations that can help them file taxes, to dementia support groups, to finding possible lodging and housing for families supporting their elders. I have personally delivered phone books to seniors who didn't have access to transportation. And we put together at least 80 welcome packets for seniors moving in to senior living facilities in town. We have also been visited specifically by visitors looking to shop downtown, but were unable to find an ADA accessible bathroom, which we provide. These are the numbers and benefits that can be harder to calculate than average visitor overnight spending, but are vitally important to our community and economy nonetheless. What we do know is that destination and tourism promotion strategies are multimodal everywhere. And in nearly every industry, internet technologies transform and augment, but do not displace brick and mortar as we know it. In fact, Travel Portland is planning to open a new visitor center next year, 2023. And recently, Travel Oregon started a promotional campaign on social media to drive additional visibility and traffic to their existing visitor centers. For this reason, we are always open and working towards a tighter collaboration with Taste Newberg, and will continue to do so with their new executive director. I appreciate your time and value your questions and thoughts. I'll strive to answer as many as I can, and if I'm unable, I'll take them back to my board or my executive director. Thank you.
All righty, questions, folks? Denise, any questions? No? All right, Lise.
All right.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
yes. I love this.
Okay,
Great job.
thank you.
I feel like this, like we need, this is just my personal opinion. I want to see more of an actual report in the quarterly reports rather than like an informal conversation. And I also want to say that with you and Scott taking over the visitor center, I have been won over on the concept of visitor center. I no longer will make any more comments about not wanting a visitor center. This is like a really great step in the right direction. I also liked your presentation just now of really giving us more detailed information and really highlighting what the visitor center does. All of that, part of the like looking 5 years at the chamber budget. It's a little concerning to me that we would just now figure out that overhead difference or variation that variance that was calculated in 2020. So my hope is that we can long range plan for the Taste Newberg and the chamber to have an all-in investment strategy from the city of Newberg on tourism and our local businesses, our local economic development, that both Taste Newberg and the chamber are not competing against each other. Both organizations have some of the most volunteers in Newberg, and I don't want those two organizations plus Downtown Coalition to ever feel like they're competing with one another. I feel like they should be fully funded to run the operation that they are tasked to run. And so that is kind of my overall feeling. And so I know we'll get into that later, but that is where I'm at.
All right, any other comments or questions, folks? No, I'd like to echo that a little bit too. I know we've got the contract coming up later this evening. I really think, and we talked about this afternoon a little bit, is regardless of what we do on the contract for this evening, I think it would be real important for us to all sit down, whether it's chamber, NDC and Taste, and really try to hammer this out and also say that, say, for instance, the percentages that are currently in place for TLT. I don't know that they're sacrosanct. They could be, we could look at that. We could look at most anything, including, economic development money potentially. General fund, I know Will hears the word general fund and it gives him a rash, but anyway, but I think that that's the part of the conversation. And now that, particularly now we've got new folks involved, and I think it's a good time to do so. So anyway. All right. Any other comments, folks? No. Okay. All righty. Thank you, Meryl. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All righty. I think I'll shake things up a little bit with the agenda, if it's all right with you all, and move right to public comments and start in with that. These are, for this part, this is the general public comments for items that may not or do not appear on the agenda. So what we generally like to do is 5 minutes per person. If you're speaking on the same topic, generally we like to, summarize. Otherwise, we'll be here for a while. So just keep that in mind. And with that, I will start open public comment with Kath Blackenmiller, please. She was here. Oh, there she is. Oh, there you are. Can you hear back there all right, all the way in the back? You can? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Thanks.
Oops. Okay. I'm against the homeless or temporary housing or camp development, which would be less than 1,500 feet from a school. The homeless is a terrible, awful, homeless situation to be in. How or why do people become homeless? Bad luck, maybe. Addiction, mental illness, other. Whatever the reason, these people need help, obviously. But the solution is not to set up a facility closer than 1,500 feet to a school. That would be a terrible, awful, horrible thing to have happen. Thank you for the opportunity to give you my opinion.
Thank you. Just one comment regarding that for anyone who wasn't here earlier. We are going to look into having an emergency meeting regarding the petition that has, or the referendum that's currently being circulated. So more news on that as we move forward. All right, on to the next, Nikki Sherman, please.
Hello. Sorry, this is kind of emotional, so just bear with me. So we received a notice on May 19th that effective immediately, we were no longer allowed to have window AC units. Loretta and Yanira Vera, or anyone else from housing for that matter, did not reach out to us to find out if any tenants were in need of help to purchase these expensive units that were allowed. However, they were quick to give out eviction notices in the middle of July for not taking out our window units. Now we are all panicked and stressed and full of anxiety over the issue of either getting severely ill because of the heat or losing our housing so we could stay cool. When I received my eviction notice on July 5th, I sent an email to not only my Section 8 worker, but also to Yanira Vera and Megan Ramos. I said in this email that it is unreasonable to expect people on Section 8 and in low-income housing to be able to afford these expensive portable AC units with such short notice. I told them that I would be happy to put one in if they purchased one for me, or they would have to wait until next summer as I could not afford one right now and needed some time to save up. I let them know that I would be contacting a lawyer and that I would like to resolve this matter soon as it is causing severe anxiety and stress. Megan Ramos's response was that she could not get involved in landlord-tenant issues and she referred me to legal aid. Yanira Vera's response was, quote, "In regards to your termination notice for cause you received last week from Loretta, these notices are being issued based on a deficiency finding we received from OHCS during their physical inspection. We are not saying that you cannot have an air conditioner, but the concern is that the air conditioner you have is a window air conditioner And since there is only one window in your bedroom, it restricts egress in case of an emergency. Did she just not read my whole email where I said I could not afford the one she is requesting I have? Or does she just not care? Yanira Vera never mentioned in her responding email that she was working on finding a solution for us, or that she was looking into seeing what HAYC or other organizations could do to help. After contacting my lawyer, he reached out to Yanira and Loretta, our apartment manager, to ask for an extension so I had time to see my doctor about getting a reasonable accommodation. There was no response from either of them. A few days later, I found out that another tenant here had gotten an extension, so I let my lawyer know. He again reached out. Again, no response. So Mary and I decided to contact the news regarding everything about being evicted in the middle of July over our air conditioners. It was only after KGW reached out to HAYC for comments that Yanira emailed me, not my lawyer, and said she was working on a solution and I could keep my current AC unit until further notice. Fortunately, Elise and others were able to provide me with a portable AC unit, so I'm cool for now. However, this is still wrong and so many more people need help. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary McGrew, please.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm gonna read. I'm speaking tonight as just one person out of the hundreds of people within the Housing Authority of Yamhill County, and one of the many victimized, intimidated, and bullied by Yanira Vera and Loretta Haywood specifically. When a vulnerable population becomes afraid to speak up because of fear of retaliation or losing what little they do have, people become complacent and horrible things become the norm. This is what's happening in Yamhill County, and that needs to change. I was one of the many tenants who was served a for-cause termination notice because of my air conditioner in the middle of July. No one in our complex had even heard about Senate Bill 1536 until after we were evicted, and we definitely didn't hear about it from management. Which is ironic because it's the exceptions in that bill that they're using against us to evict us. I knew the evictions were wrong, but management kept on insisting there were no exceptions and blamed the decision on everyone but themselves. If they had put as much effort into helping us as they did deflecting blame and evicting people, we'd all have ACs by now. But instead of taking action months ago, they not only denied their tenants of AC, they are still doing so. When I asked Yanira Vera, when she finally arrived, if we could donate extra units to our sister property, Victoria Square, oh no, you can't do that. This was on Friday, several days into the heat wave, and after 4 days of news coverage, when Yanira Vera, like I said, finally came to see if anyone needed ACs. Fortunately, because of the efforts of private donors, and WSDS and lease, most of them already had units by the time Yanira arrived. It took us 4 days to do what they couldn't or wouldn't do in 4 months. Mary Starrett, the Housing Authority, and others within it are publicly patting themselves on the back for a job well done, when not only did they not do the job isn't even done yet. There is a tenant in my complex, Hayworth Terrace, who was personally guaranteed an AC unit by Yanira Vera last week, and as of 4 p.m. today, he hasn't received it yet. We're talking about low-income, elderly, disabled, veterans, people who should expect the people in authority to, at the very least, do the right thing, especially when it's a matter of life or death. The Housing Authority failed all of us in our complex. They failed everyone in Yamhill County. They failed everyone and continue to do so with, like I said, the intimidation, bullying. And that's all. That's enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No. Thank you very much.
Thanks, thank you. Yeah, just as, generally, for public comment, we generally don't do a lot of interaction, so that's probably why you won't generally hear a lot of questions, so just for that. So, all right, Cecilia. I'm gonna butcher your last name, I'm afraid. Sorry. I'm gonna say show ships.
Close. I'm Cecilia Shioships. I'm
Shioships.
enrolled in the Cayuse Ubatilla,
Mhm.
and I live at Victoria Square Apartments. I signed a lease to pay my rent between the 1st and 10th of the month, and got a letter saying that I was late this July. And if it happened again and it wasn't paid on the 4th of each month, I would be charged $50. And as far as I know, Loretta Harwood is a site manager. She's not a policymaker. And my rent has been raised twice. I was overpaying it and didn't realize it until I don't know what happened. But anyway, that was, I'm assuming that it was taken care of. I have been putting Drano in my kitchen and bathroom drains since I moved in. I have black mold in both those, the bathtub, the sink in the kitchen, and the sink in the bathroom. I asked to have the rug removed when I moved in because I'm allergic to cats and it smelled like urine. They did not. They washed the rug, but it's not adequate. When I looked up, trying to find help has been almost impossible. It's just, I went to the Senior Citizen Center in Minville asking for a phone number of an ombudsman. And they said, oh, we don't have that information. They gave me a card to call. I've called almost every day. And you're waiting online until they say, you know, we have so many calls, you'll have to call back. That's not helpful. I finally found out about the multiple family Northwest. I called them. The secretary or whoever answered the phone, I asked if I could speak to someone about a complaint, Victoria Apartments, and she said I could contact Loretta, and I said I need someone above that. So she said, you need her? I think that's her name. But she couldn't take my call. So I called again. Oh, and then I asked if she had if I could get a HUD phone number. She said, I can connect you to a HUD. So I called, and the third call was, UNITA has not returned my call, and I wanted that phone number for HUD. Oh, I don't have it, and UNITA is out of the office. Ms. Harwood sent out a letter demanding that I write down or give her information who my doctor was, my illnesses, my medication, how often I see them, and I'm going, I think that's against the law. So I did not fill out that. And I know that in my apartment, I'm staying with friends and my son off and on because in my apartment, it got up to 88 degrees. And that's, you can't live that. You can't, it's impossible to rest. And HUD says in its thing, it says we offer we offer safe, decent, and sanitary housing. That's a lie. Thank you. Oh, electrical. I have in my front room 2 electrical outlets that spark. I have in the bedroom an electrical outlet that sparks, and it's unsafe. And you know, whatever I have is in that apartment, and it's dear to me. But if there was a fire, I would have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth Gardner, please.
Old nurse and old cowgirl beat up. And I have more formality in me, so it's as formal as you get. So I'm just gonna shoot from the cuff. I've been at Victoria Square for 7.5 months, or 7.5 years. And the day I moved in, the guy, they wouldn't replace the carpet. They didn't have the apartment cleaned, nothing done. So when I finally fell, the carpet was like this and busted my kneecap, they finally changed the carpet. But while the guy was changing the carpet, we had to move all our furniture out. I had to move everything I had in my apartment out myself. They would not help or hire anyone. Sat outside with my stuff while the guy was doing the carpet, kept going in, checking, watching, and I heard him scraping, so I go back in. He had all the carpet and pad out, but the entire wood floor, the base floor, solid black. Yanira Vera was in the office at that time because she was not, we had no manager. So I told him, I said, just stop what you're doing right there. And I ran to the office, hobbled to the office, got over there, and she said, I told her what was going on, and she goes, well, did he say it's mold? And I said, no, he said he's not a mold expert. He doesn't know. You need to come and look. She's called him and said, in front of me, just get the pad and the carpet laid. She's not the boss. And he laid the carpet and the pad on top of a solid black floor. That's just one thing. My plugs in my apartment don't stay in the wall. I have to take electrical tape and tape around the plug and then tape it to the wall to make them stay. A lot of the places don't have ceiling fans, and the ones that do have ceiling fans were put in years ago. And if you have a problem with the ceiling fan, they won't replace the ceiling fan. They'll put a little old light up there that does us no good at all. Baseboard heaters, they blow straight up in the air. And without a ceiling fan or anything to move the air in the winter, it's costing us a ton of money. And now that we have air conditioner, my son bought me one, thankfully, an indoor one, and it's doubled the PG&E though. So, you know, none of us are gonna be able to make it. Out back, we have a huge grass area, huge. I pasted off and it's like 36 by 66 roughly. And since I've been there, I've been trying to get that into a dog run because none of us can run with our dogs anymore. Dogs need somewhere to go do their energy thing, you know? As long as we clean it up, it shouldn't be a problem. I've tried for 7.5 years to get that into a dog park, but they now advertise it as a dog play park, but we cannot put our dogs out there and let them play. Even Habitat had fencing and a gate that they're going to install for us for free, and they would not approve it. I even came up with a cattle panel that we could just move over against these boxes and then move back when you're done with your dog. We won't approve it. Nothing. We can't get anything approved. We can never get a yes for anything. That's the dog park thing. There's threats of eviction. There's people are being forced to move out of the 2-bedroom apartments. We only have, I think, 4 of them. People are being forced because they had a divorce or their spouse had died or whatever. They were forced to move out into a 1-bedroom. They were not, their deposits were not transferred with them. They were forced to pay like $800 to move into another apartment when they're being forced to move to another apartment instead of it transferring. That's another thing. Miss Yanira Vera, and Lorita's supposed to be able to, she's your manager. She's supposed to be able to do your recertification because we get to take a bunch of deductions for things, medical, your assistance animals, things, we can take deductions. This lady cannot do it. I had to have I sent a packet out to Megan, Vicky, Yanira, and Lorita, 3 months apart for each one, waiting for a response for someone this last year. Didn't get a response at all. Till I finally got an attorney. Then I got a response and they said that they would send out the compliance manager to do mine. That manager of ours, Miss Lorita, left off 150 receipts that were able to take off my rent, that would lower my rent. She left that off. Well, the year before that, which I'm still trying to get done, I spent $1,086 more than I did the year before, and they raised my rent $37 instead of lowering it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on over there, and the black mold, I mean, it's everywhere. I helped my neighbor that moved, I was telling you, he moved. There was mold everywhere, and what they do, they brought him a bottle of spray and said, take this spray and spray it, and you can rub it off yourself. That was their solution to the black mold. We have a water leak out back that started leaking when they put in the new sidewalks. These guys pulled out all the pipes, and it just leaks. And yet they won't turn the sprinklers on, and when they do, they run for like 10 minutes maybe. And we don't even have sprinklers in most of the area. So that's some of the stuff, not all of it, but thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Charlene Gar, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Charlene, and I also live at Victoria Square Apartments. I moved in a year and a half ago, sight unseen. I was told I could not look at my apartment because of COVID. So I move in on the 22nd of January, 2021. I moved into a horrible mess. I got sick a month and a half after I moved in. I came down with a blood clot on my lung and 2 nodules on my other lung. My dog, that's my medically assisted pet, has also been violently ill from the black mold that's in that carpet, and it's over 20 years old. When I vacuumed the carpet when I first moved in and I saw what was coming out of the rug, I immediately took it straight to Larita at the office. And her response to me was, "Oop, that's not good." That was it. That was all she said to me. And then I started getting harassed. Immediately, I started getting 24-hour maintenance inspections. I have received 8 in total in a year and a half. They have harassed me every time I mention the black mold and how sick I am and how sick my dog is. I showed Yanira pictures of my dog. I showed her what it's doing to my skin on my feet. And they just keep slapping me with notices and harassing me, bullying me. I have had no quality of life in the year and a half that I've lived there. I have been stripped from my rights to have my grandchildren in my home to stay with me because of the black mold. I can't take a bath in my bathtub because the paint is chipped so bad that if I do, I swim in paint chips. Linoleum's curled up. My floors are buckling in the living room because of the black mold. So what they do is they have the gutters, the rain gutters, and it comes down the drain pipe. And then they have it PVC piped underneath the vents underneath your downstairs apartment. So all that water's going underneath there. It's dark, it's damp, that creates black mold. This is a health hazard and it has to stop. Somebody has to help us. I have contacted everybody I can think of. I have made so many calls in the last year and a half to get help in there. I've called the health department. They sent me phony mold inspectors, by the way, twice. They bullied me and I stopped the guys at the door. I had witnesses in my apartment. 2 of them are here tonight. I have recorded them. I have video and audio recorded them with their permission on their last inspection on the 23rd of June. They were served by me through an attorney. I got an attorney through Kibble and Howard, and they helped me draw up a demand letter for all the repairs that did not get done and should have been done before I ever moved in. They were given that letter. Yanira received that letter by certified mail by me on the 9th of June. On the 23rd of June, David, the head of maintenance, and Yanira Vera came into my apartment, and I told them I was going to record the entire session, in which I did. And I had Beth as a witness taking notes in my apartment. Twice now they've come in and said they would do all these repairs in my apartment, and I have not heard anything from them since the 23rd of June. I also have put in for 3 reasonable accommodations in the last year and a half, and the last one I just did was for us. The same apartment I've applied for before. I applied for again on the 11th of this month, and I emailed Yanira and I emailed Livia, and no one has responded back. I am getting no Gmails back. I've had doors slammed in my face by Larita. I've had papers thrown in my face by Larita. I've had her sit on the phone while I'm banging on the door to get in and she just ignores you and will not. If she sees you coming, she'll shut the shades. She absolutely will not speak to anybody she doesn't want to. And anybody certainly that stands up for their rights and their beliefs and what they have a right to. So I'm also dealing with electrical issues. My electric burnt out in March. They brought, it took me calling housing, and PGE called them. I have this documented through PGE 3 times. The final straw on this was it's illegally wired. As soon as they supposedly fixed it in March, it wasn't fixed. It blew out my brand new TV, my coffee pot in my kitchen, and I have been sitting in my bedroom and not being able to utilize the rest of my apartment since March. I cannot use the rest of my house. I cannot put an air conditioner in my living room. It will blow it up. So I had to put it in my bedroom, and I have to stay closed up in my room. I went without heat. The heaters that they have in there are baseboard heaters. They burn the walls. My lock. No, I had my apartment illegally entered. Oh, man. Okay. Thank you.
Donna Anderson, please. Sure.
Thank you. So with the electrical issue, like I said, I haven't been able to utilize anything in my apartment. I did get an attorney. We sent out the demand letter and all that, like I said. I emailed them and told them that the electrical is still not fixed. It's blowing out my TV. It blew out my coffee pot and such. And really their response was, sorry. They haven't refunded me for any of that. My rent too also was raised. But needless to say, I can't use any of my electrical in my living room, or it will blow out the circuit breaker and I will lose everything I plug into the wall. So I absolutely can't use any outlets in my living room. Oh, my door locks. So they were illegally entering my apartment for the last 1.5 years. I started feeling, I knew somebody was coming in my apartment. I had things that started coming up missing. And so I put a camera up on January 4th. I had surgery. My son picked me up and I went to surgery. I put a camera up in front of my door. There was one maintenance man in that parking lot that morning. And when I left and I came home, they had illegally let someone in my apartment that lives there, and I got her in a bathrobe. I have filed 2 police reports against them. And it's on record here in Newberg. They told me to change my locks and to not give them a key to my apartment ever again. So I gave my key to my son like the police department told me to do. When Yanira and David came into my apartment on one inspection, I told them I changed the lock. And when I pulled the lock out, it had duct tape, or not duct tape, but electrical tape wrapped around it. I still have the lock. When they entered my apartment, I confronted them on that. And I showed them the lock and I said, am I supposed to feel safe with this lock in my door? This is supposed to make me feel safe in my home. And they just looked at it and shook their head and said nothing about it and walked out. And they asked me for a key and I told them absolutely not. I said, you have spent 1.5 years coming in and out of my apartment, and I've got hair from women that I don't even know in my apartment that I've picked up, and I've got it tagged and bagged. I've got it all. And I said, your days of illegally entering my apartment have ceased. Right now, you will no longer come in without my permission. If you have to come in for an emergency, you will contact me or my son. Otherwise, you will not get in. Hmm? Oh, backdating. Yes, they're, I can't remember on all of that backdating stuff, but they backdate a lot of the stuff that they give you. They'll backdate, or they'll put a time on it that's incorrect. So I keep everything. So I mark the times, the dates, all of that. Also,
we got a letter saying that we had to move anything that was in front of the outlets, and it was mandatory and there were no exceptions. The guy came in, they took 2 days where we had to have these cleared. And the man came in, he went to the fuse box, and I said, aren't you gonna check the outlets? Because the staff was to have this cleared. He goes, that's not my department. He was in there probably 15 seconds.
on the, just real quick, I want to add on that mold stuff. Yanira sent 2 people in that were phony mold inspectors. One, like I said, I stopped them at the door and asked them for their credentials. I wanted their licensing, bonding, I wanted to know. The first guy said, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm a floor guy. I don't know why they made me come from Portland. I don't know how to test mold. The second one that came in said that I asked him the same thing at the door. He said he did not know anything about mold inspecting. He was hired by housing to come in and do a mold inspection. So we sat and we watched him probe my carpet with a prober, and it was lighting up like a Christmas tree, showing that there was massive moisture underneath my carpets. And then they left. Well, I kept asking them for a copy of that mold report, and they wouldn't give it to me, and they wouldn't give it to me. And I finally went after them again and cornered Yanira, and I said, I want a mold report right now from your mold inspector. And so what they sent me is a air quality test from a company that they didn't do an air quality test in my apartment. The guy probed my carpet. I watched it. I had a witness there. It was clearly showing liquids, and he accused me of throwing liquids on my floor. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, needless to say, I got the report. It was a phony report. It said it was an air quality test. I confronted him on that, and such. So, yeah, I mean, it just continues. It just goes on and on and on and on what we deal with. So, thank you.
Thank you. Holly Lee, please.
Hi, my name's Holly. I'm mostly here on behalf of these ladies here because they're very bold and courageous. At the end of the day, homelessness can happen for a multitude of reasons, especially in this day and age. And I certainly have a story to tell, partly for me to blame, but then there's another part, which I was completely not at fault. Voicing problems about what's happening in your rental, it's just no matter how you slice or dice it, it can lead to very ugly things. And we're witnessing that right now. And I have my own personal history. So to be honest, I got too much trauma to even publicly say what's happening with the landlord. I would really like to give them a chance to hire some new people. I think that the kind of work that these ladies have put in can really, really lead to something big. Because at the end of the day, these are our most vulnerable people. We take care of them. We look after them. We don't take advantage of their fears and prey on their vulnerabilities and think they could just walk all over them. And that's really all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Beth, let me close it. It's going on for a little bit, so I think unless, yeah. All right, folks, let me close the general public comment section of this evening's meeting. And then I'd like to offer something up to council on this subject. Obviously what you've mentioned, issues of health and safety. I think that it may merit, and I'll defer to James and to Will, but I think it's probably worth a letter to the Housing Authority from us, from the council, just questioning some of this, and we'll tell them if they aren't watching the news, then we'll say that we had quite a bit of public testimony, and that it's obviously a concern for us because you are Newberg residents. All right, so I don't know. What do you think? Yeah. Anyone? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But certainly, obviously.
I certainly heard some things there that need to be scoped in terms of potential violations of various sorts. So
I will just attest that I've seen it with my eyes. And I just want to say to the 7 of you here and for people within your complex that I, as an elected official, feel like that I need to do way better. I'm going to start crying. I mean, Mary and Nikki specifically, I feel like I owe you a ton now after seeing what you're going through and your living situation. And I feel really sick that, we love to talk about affordable housing, but then our affordable housing is appalling. And, we're also talking about petitions and all the things, and you're sitting right in front of us. And this is my commitment to you. I think we got to do a lot more than a letter. I think we got to get public meeting of some sort of town hall set. And I would also challenge OHA that they've got to do a lot better than they're doing right now. And I would love to know where the $5 million from that Senate bill is sitting for those AC units. Just for those people that want to know, we had 17 AC units donated in about 48 hours from local citizens. I'm sure some people in here. So, Newberg community, we get hot and heated about a lot of things, but when it comes to really helping our neighbors, I do believe that that's nonpartisan, and people stepped up and spent over $10,000 in 48 hours on people in this room. So I love each one of you, and this is the beginning.
Just to follow on that notion of a letter, what it would be to ask, you voiced a series of allegations that are, issues of health and safety. And now that we've heard it, I don't think we can ignore it. So the thrust of the letter would be, how will these be addressed? These are specific concerns that we've heard, and how will they be addressed? And I think from that, I think the Housing Authority probably should come and talk to us and tell us what's going on. Then that'll be on the record too, right? So, and we'll do what we can. The other thing that I think you all alluded to, but is true, is that women between the ages of 50 and 70 are the most highly likely to go homeless. And so it's a shocking statistic, but it is true. So for all of that reason, and as Elise said, we'll go from there. If that's okay with you all, we'll do it. And we'll take input and if we can ask for a report back from Housing Authority.
I would also like to know in that letter when it will be addressed, not
Yes.
just how, but when. I want it immediate.
Yeah. And we got notes here, and you all send me any comments too, and I can put some together, and I'll send it around before we send it out.
Just the level of intimidation they talked about, I want to make sure that we follow up and make sure that they don't become victimized again through a repair process and whatnot. So, right, we gotta.
And I already did
we'll
send
be
an email to
diligent.
Vicky outlining a lot of these things earlier today, so I'll forward that to you, and that can start the process.
Okay.
I would also offer, I have some of my business cards. If someone needs someone to come help with that, if you're having an inspection and you need someone to come be there for an inspection, please let me know, and I will make room in my schedule to be there if you need another person there to help advocate for you.
The other thing that I will like to do is you mentioned, Beth, you mentioned Habitat for Humanity earlier. I'd like to talk to them about what, if anything, local volunteers can do to address some of these issues. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here. And I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thank you for giving us a voice.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so, okay, have a good evening. Thank you. Thanks very much. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, folks. Let's get this meeting back into session and resume with the city manager's report, please.
Okay, and I have the clicker, which worked last time. And this is the monthly events for July 2022.
Is it on? Did you turn it on?
Yep. Yes.
Is it not? Okay. It doesn't like you.
It doesn't like me. Next slide, please.
There will be training
I'll hand it to you next. But then who does? Well met. Before I delve into the events of the month, I'd like to take a moment to highlight the Summer All-Staff Barbecue and recognize this year's award winners. It was a smashing event despite the blistering heat, and we were able to recognize our long service staff and our 2022 honor roll. This year's staff memento was a very useful beach towel. I have one here, and there may be spares if anyone would like one. And it's a towel which recognized and reinforced our STRIVE values, which are printed on said towel. New slide, please. While we celebrate all the staff who've given long service, there were two folk at the barbecue who have given a significant part of their lives to the residents of this city. And one of those was our chief, was Mickey, for 25 years of service. New slide, please. And Dan Wilson, water plant superintendent, who served this city for 40 years. New slide, please. And amongst the honor roll was Mary Heberlin-Crichton, who was our Rookie of the Year. That's the person who's like the most valuable player of a new edition. New slide, please. Captain Ferguson, who was our Visionary Award for many things he's done, including grant work. New slide, please. Yes, bringing in some good general fund dollars. And for overall lifetime achievement in the service of this city, Barb Davis for the George Lehman Recipient of the Year. The lady who came to work with steel pins in her recently broken wrist to make sure payroll happened. New slide, please. And now over to recent public safety events. New dispatcher Jolene Pinnock had her first day, 6/27. Our new lateral officer, Todd Steele from Yamhill County. We had a sheriff's office had the first day on 7/5. New lateral officer Evan Dunham from West Lynn would start on 8/16. And the department participated, of course, in Public Works Day, brought the command van, patrol cars, K9 officer Pelon and his partner K9 Tango, along with retired K9 Arco, all present at a smashing event. New slide, please. Also, officers picked up a goat that was wandering around town. They were kept in the department until the owners were able to come by. That's first we had an owl, now we have a goat. Critically, body-worn cameras went live on 7/5 and, new slide please, that is the goat. The goat was released without charges, but K9 Officer Tango said in an official statement, I'll be keeping an eye on this suspect. New slide, please. K9 Officer Tango with his humans. New slide, please. And over to Public Works events. While I discussed Public Works Day already, I wanted to share just a few more pictures of that great event. And as you know, I was told that if I didn't smile in pictures more often, I would no longer be allowed to wear a summer reading t-shirt. So the picture on the right was to show some levity. New slide, please. Public Works Safety Committee is starting its AED replacement program. Many of the AEDs in our facilities are old and coming on their retirement date. The program will replace 2 per year until they're all up to date. The first couple are going in City Hall and the library, which had some of the older models. New slide, please. Public Works has continued to work with NDPD to host future training on active shooter and shelter in place trainings. They are creating some go bags for each building, and NDPD has been consulted on grab and go inventory suggestions. A recent development is a new system has been devised to rapidly lock the doors of City Hall should there be the need to shelter in place, and that has been tested recently. We reconnected with Yamhill County Emergency Management Team to re-establish in-person connections, plan for county training over the next year, and share goals and resources. New slide, please. Here are some recent water maintenance missions. Service connections, leak checks, radio units replaced, water meters installed. New slide, please. Here's a couple of pictures of some of the things that go on all the time. Late night water leak repair, Meridian and 2nd Street, and crews conducting large meter testing. New slide, please. And in street maintenance, street sweeping debris recently collected 33 cubic yards of garbage from our streets, and tree trimming was completed for the whole of Zone 1. And yes, they'll move on to Zone 2 next. New slide, please. Another scene, some mowing and weed whacking happening around town while the weather's good. New slide, please. Recent wastewater maintenance included sewer lines cleaned, 1,055 feet, manholes inspected, and gunk inspections, including grease trap cleanouts 23. New slide, please. And you've heard about the Public Works fuel station designed to save money as well as increase emergency resilience by having more fuel on hand. Here are some images of preparations for the new fuel station, leveling and grading and such. New slide, please. Lastly, in this area, geological testing was done during the month in the areas of potential new construction, to include the new groundwater treatment plant area and the area for the potential surface water intake as part of the same assemblage. New slide, please. Now over to library land. Summer is hopping at the library just the way it always should be. We've kept busy with programming from Paradise of Samoa Polynesian Dance, Reptile Man, Music for Families by the Mo Phillips Trio, and staff are working with Newberg School District Migrant Summer School to register youth for the summer reading program with a free book. Other programming offered in July included a historical World War II program on Spy and Claire Phillips, Lego builders, story times, and book clubs for all ages. New slide, please. As you know, library programs are designed to educate as well as entertain. And this is a picture from the Reptile Man's recent visit. Kids do love to get close to snakes. The objective is to keep the reading habit going well so youth can return to school strong in the fall. New slide. The library mascot for this summer, Dragon, has visited 14 downtown businesses, with 4 left to go in August. This annual Seek and Find program is in its 16th year and a favorite with families and downtown businesses. Every year we hear how families have discovered new to them places in town, and so far there are about 1,700 entries to win Dragon at the end of summer. And maybe Dragon can be cloned somehow. Of course, there's only one. Understood? New slide, please. This month, the library housed 2 large displays, a Fair Housing Council of Oregon display, including a 7-panel display on housing discrimination in Oregon. And in July, the library also hosted Oregon's Dino Story, presented by the Museum of Natural and Cultural History from the University of Oregon. This family-friendly hands-on display was up the entire month and included information in English and Spanish. The library is excited to see more of a return to normalcy and to see that reflected in our growing circulation and program numbers. New slide, please. And here is pictures of the 2 displays we had recently, 1 adult and 1 for kids. New slide, please. In human resources, July was a particularly busy month, with HR and finance implementing the results of the recently finished class and comp study and annual COLAs associated with the approved CBA agreements, which have just come through, and of course, the effect of the new budget. Every single employee received a new wage notice, And for the first time, the city is paying 100% of the medical benefits across all tiers for ASME and non-represented staff. The police receive a VIBA contribution equal to their employee portion of benefits and therefore are also covered for 100%. New slide, please. With benefit levels beginning at a regular 30-hour per week position, we hope that this will be a retention and hiring incentive to combat this very difficult recruitment climate. And notably, some of our neighboring cities are not doing this. HR attended the annual CIS benefits meeting in Salem to learn about enhancements and changes to benefits coming for 2023 and provided an update to employees, as well as completing the necessary requests for coverage and open enrollment planning for 2023. New slide, please. The city also rolled out an easier performance coaching method for employees tied to the city's Strive values. The reports have been streamlined to work around each department's busiest season. With full union agreement, all step increases have been consolidated and will be effective every January 1st of any given year, giving employees a welcome mid-year increase, as well as simplifying the work of the finance team and HR, who will no longer have to track individual dates. And everyone likes this. New slide, please. Now on to community development. A design review and adjustment has been submitted for the Newberg Public Schools Support Advocacy for Independence in Life SAIL project on East Meridian. Design reviews are being processed for the Voda Clinic on North Main Street and an accessory dwelling unit on East Quail Drive. Design reviews were issued for an ADU on East Dartmouth Street, the Newberg Dodge Fluid Storage Building, and the Wozniak Pole Barn. A petition decision was issued for 613 West 1st Street, and staff has been meeting with Veritas on a design review application for new portable classroom buildings. New slide, please. The Planning Commission did not have a quorum on July 14th, and the 4 public hearings are rescheduled for August 11. City Council approved the right-of-way vacations related to Knapp's Thriftway and held a hearing on the annexation at 700 North East Camellia. The Workforce Housing Consortium will meet to review the project vision and develop goals for the workforce housing project led by said core with the $3 million of funding from the state. Would indeed. New slide, please. The Housing Production Strategy Citizens Advisory Committee held their 3rd meeting, and the Affordable Housing Commission met to develop the Notice of Funding Availability for 22-23 and documents related to construction excise tax. The Newberg Urban Area Management Commission met to review changes to the Newberg Area Growth Management Agreement and the related bylaws. The first report on the Certified Local Government Grant was submitted. And lastly, in this area, a pre-application meeting was held for outdoor dining near Old Town Bar and Grill, organized by that company. New slide, please. And now over to IT. In July, the IT department met with several departments to assist them in creating the initial SharePoint content for their department intranet sites. We took delivery of our ARPA-funded desktop visualization servers, and yes, that's how long it took to arrive with supply chain issues, and installed them to begin testing and configuration. This involved decommissioning and recycling old hardware to make physical space for the new servers and running new high-speed networking to those locations. New slide, please. IT also performed migrations for over 70 more virtual servers from our old hosting environment to the new one. In addition, we performed an upgrade of the police computer AD dispatch software to bring them to the same level and version as their test environment, which sounds really good. New slide, please. Last but not least, community engagement. Community engagement has been assisting departments with updating their printed materials, such as new brochures for each division of Public Works, a map of our emergency water filtration units, and the how to testify instructions, which you saw over there tonight, for public comment. New slide, please. We also conducted campaigning to inform the community about our free water efficiency kits for residents. Work in DEI is centered around preparations for another round of Spanish computer classes at the library and promoting the 32-year anniversary of Americans with Disability Act and the city's ADA transition plan. And there follows a few images of recent community engagement work. New slide. How to testify. New slide. Public Works engineering information, what it's all about. New slide. ADA 32. New slide. And information about our water processes, all available to the public. New slide. So that's it for July events. As you can see, our residents' tax dollars have been hard at work as usual. And are there any questions at this time? Thank you kindly.
All right, let's move on to items 7A and B. This is the consent calendar, folks.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar. Second.
And a second by Elise. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the consent calendar passes. Let's now move on to public hearing. This is item 8A, the RCA regarding the visitor center contract. So we'll now open this administrative hearing. It is now called to order. Declaration of conflicts of interest or abstentions, anyone? Hearing none, the staff report.
Thank you. On March 16th, 2015, the Newberg City Council entered into an agreement with the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce for visitor information services, approved by Resolution 2015 TAC 3180. Between December 2016 and January 2019, evaluations established a tourism marketing program and organization. Per the term of the existing contract, staff began discussions with CVCC on the new contract in April of 2022. The contract would be for 1 year period, given the current COVID-19 pandemic recovery options and reduced visitor center foot traffic that was occurring during that period. It seems sensible to run a 1 year contract at this time. And in the process, also, we are aware that the Newberg Strategic Tourism Plan is being updated at this time as well, and that does play into it. And so that ends my staff report.
All righty, thank you. I'll now open the public testimony. And let's see, starting off the 5-minute time limit, as is our custom, and Lee Jensen, please. Good evening, Lee.
Left? Oh, right there. Okay. Just a bit, whatever. Okay, got it. I'm Lee Jensen, Executive Director for Taste Newberg. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. We are here tonight to comment on this item number regarding the allocation of TLT funding for the Visitor Center operated by the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce. This contract is on the agenda tonight for final approval, I believe, for a 1 year renewal for a substantial increase of 15,000 over the 30,000 to 45,000, a 50% increase, which is significant. Well, Taste Newberg has some questions regarding the need for a visitor center with all the online information available, such as the new Tasteberg Newberg app and continued updates to our website. We support the renewal for 1 year with a plan from the city to evaluate the true return on investment. Taste Newberg would like to have a seat at the table in the planning and operation of the visitor center during this upcoming year and with the contract renewal process. As a destination marketing organization for Newberg, we believe our track record, knowledge regarding promoting Newberg is beneficial to determine the needs and function of a visitor center now and in the future. Taste Newberg recommends the following changes in addition to the proposed contract. I want to make one little note, by the way, I ran a visitor center for 12 years. Just got to give you some background. We would like the substantial amount of 15,000 to come out of the city of Newberg's general fund. Sorry, Will, portion of the TLT, as the city council did already approve our budget back in May and only included a $30,000 expenditure. So 15,000 additional to find someplace in our budget is a lot to ask. And the city has more resources than we do. We would like the chamber to provide a detailed budget on how these funds are being used to promote tourism in Newberg. And we'd like to add some tourism tracking to the matrix that are in the contract. So the number of visitors coming weekly and monthly. We'd like to collect zip codes and provide those to Taste Newberg for data, for marketing campaigns. Where are people coming from? Where should we look at? Where are people coming to us so we know where that is? And we are marketing responsibly. Track where visitors are staying, reason for their visit, and how long they're staying. This also helps in marketing expenditures. Are they here for weddings? Are they here for, what are they, events? What are they here for? That helps us target our money, the money that you guys want, because it increases all of our bottom line. Nationwide, we are seeing a trend of visitor centers being closed due to the cost of overhead operations, reduced demand in in-person services. Destinations are going to technology to help guests, such as our new Tasteborg app and our website. We believe that the 35% of the TLT funding that should be given to Newberg, and the city should have the obligation for the increase of the chamber contract taken from the general fund. Thanks for your time, and I would hope you consider my recommendations.
Thank you. All right, that's all I've got, I think, for public comments, I believe.
Yes, I haven't received any written comment for this item.
Thank you so much. All right, I will close public testimony. Recommendation from staff, please.
So, Honorable Mayor and Councillors, you'll find in front of you a bar chart and also a financial chart that demonstrates recent changes in TLT values. The purpose of providing you with this, and I'm sorry, Denise, I didn't know that you were not going to be here in person. I apologize. The purpose of providing this really was to show you the basis and the rationale upon which the Chamber Visitor Center request was based. So I will be referencing that chart somewhat in this next remark. Unfortunately, and quite reluctantly, I do find myself in the position of having to respond to and clarify a few of the remarks from my friends from Taste. Specifically, there are several points in the remarks that haven't covered certain aspects that they may in fact be unaware of. First off, I need to point out that the purpose of encouraging tourism is first and foremost to stimulate the local economy, but it does have a secondary purpose of providing some dollars for the general fund. Now, if you know Oregon's regulatory environment, especially around property taxes, you will know that it is a very big challenge to find any funding sources for the city. And this is one of those state-identified funding sources. Therefore, I would argue that it makes no sense to take funds from the general fund to do this visitor center increase at a time when TLT is demonstrably and statistically rising nicely, hence the chart I provided. I would say, why should the taxpayers of Newberg unnecessarily cover the visitor center's needs from the general fund when the TLT forecast is rosy? Second, the taste statement is mathematically imprecise. It takes no account of the fact that the TLT revenue portion going to taste is expanding rapidly, and the $15,000 increase in question is a very minor amount compared to the overall increasing revenue which they will be receiving. To be clear, I celebrate the successes of Taste Newberg, and I am delighted that their revenue will be growing so handsomely. And that's even before the new hotel arrives. I have provided a spreadsheet and chart to illustrate these points visually. It demonstrates that the 15,000 decision was thoughtfully and carefully considered in light of the figures that you have before you. Third, the taste statement does not reference the fact that the visitor center increase is the first to occur in very many years. And to be fair, Lee is new in her position, and she may not know that there has been no increase in support for the visitor center for at least 3 years that I know about, and perhaps more. And this is at a time when costs for all of us have increased dramatically, including rents. The taste statement does not take account of how useful the visitor center is to non-digital natives and those who may not be able to afford roaming cellular charges, but who still visit our city. There are still lots of IT challenged folks and poor folks who may visit us, and having a physical site is still of value until such times as these populations are no longer a factor. And it could happen, but I doubt it. And so having thought about this a lot on my years of running reference desk, I'm aware that those communities need to be helped too. Seeing that TLT revenue is rising nicely, I felt and still do that it's appropriate to help the visitor center modestly from this source, while Taste still receives the larger share. Lastly, the suggestion for Taste involvement in helping the visitor center become even more effective are very interesting. And I will certainly be exploring these ideas with the visitor center and Taste Newberg. And I appreciate Taste for suggesting these ideas. For all of these reasons, staff recommends passage of the new visitor center contract as presented.
All righty, thank you. Time for council deliberation, folks, or questions of Will, if you'd like to start with that.
Nice job. I think besides what I said earlier, after Meryl shared, I do have concern that Taste already signed their contract and this was not a part of that, or that original conversation. I do love that we're going to be having those contract renewals at the same time now going forward next year. That was a great move. So I think that this should really be utilized as a year of preparation to a long-term plan in coordination with the tourism strategic plan that's being built. Love it. All of that being said, I do really feel strongly that we need to show a vote of good faith from the council, that we are going all in on our local businesses, our local economy, and tourism. So I would absolutely support taking $15,000 from the general fund this year, because your graph also shows how beautifully the general fund has grown. And so I do think, yeah, that was an unfortunate little spike for you. Okay. Yeah. But I also think something we haven't talked about, which I think needs to be a part of the longer conversation. So this is my thing on the table is a one-time, 1 year, $15,000 from the general fund to the visitor center, give them $15,000 back, negotiate with both parties at the table, really need to do it at the same time, discuss it. And then also I really would like to know, to include conversation that I think that the chamber's revenue has also grown. And they have revenue sources that are outside of TLT funds as well. So is the conversation that they should long-term be able to find the revenue to cover their increased overhead? I think that needs to be a conversation. I don't know if that's true or false, but I think that that's a conversation that has to have both parties there. So 1 year out of the general fund, they'll both continue to kill it. We can figure out next year at a joint contract conversation. Sorry.
Anyone else?
Denise has her hand up.
Denise, yep. Denise,
Uh,
that's-
That's me. Yeah. I also think we should follow through with the contract. I do not think it should come from the general fund, since this is the fund from which it should come, TLT. And I really, at a lot of points, don't want to sign a contract with either one of them next year until they can learn to get along. They both represent this community and they both play different roles, and they both need to figure out how to get along to do it, because if they don't, they are doing each other and all of the businesses that they're here to represent and that we're paying them to represent, to do what they're supposed to do and do it nice. I've listened to this fight for years and I'm tired of it.
all right, Stephanie.
Yeah, I agree with Denise, and I don't think it should come out of the general fund. And one of the things that I just wanted to point out, a couple of things for me is that the first is that both entities are extremely valuable, but I also wanted to point out the difference between the visitor center being specific to Newberg, while Taste does a good job of including Newberg, but really a lot of the stuff that we've seen come out of Taste is surrounding areas as well. And so I want to make sure that we're focusing on the fact that we also need to be very specific with our business partners that are here in town. And the other thing that I would have to say is, when I look at something like this, when I look at the fact that the visitor center provides one of the only ADA accessible bathrooms in downtown Newberg, that in of itself is something that I think is very important to our community and is something that is invaluable.
Other comments? Anyone?
Yes.
Jefferson, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I find this like all right. I find this a really difficult conversation. I love Taste Newberg's posts. I follow them exclusively, but I have not visited the visitor center yet, and so it's very hard for me to make. Yeah, no, it's very hard for me to make a decision when I don't feel like I've fairly experienced both places. I do agree with Denise that the money should come from the fund that it's supposed to come from. And the chart is compelling, so I'm not sure which way I'll vote at this point.
Please.
So two things. So when I say the general fund, can we talk about how it's TLT is divided 65 and 35, right? So when I say the general fund, it's still TLT dollars. Okay. So does everyone understand that? Because you're saying that it's not a good use of the general fund, but when in reality, those are all TLT dollars. Other cities have different separations of percentages. So although it is the general fund, it's still transient lodging tax dollars. So we're not taking it from, it's not a tax on our own residents that live here. Okay. The second thing is, I actually disagree. I think it's the opposite. I do think that, so Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce focuses on the whole valley, except for McMinnville. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's open to businesses beyond Newberg. Where Taste Newberg, I hope, is focusing very specifically on Newberg and includes Dundee as well, of course. But again, I really don't, Philip was shaking his head. I really don't. I'm really concerned. I love what Denise said. I love the fire in your voice. I absolutely agree that this has been a conversation since I've been a part of Taste Newberg. There's been an ongoing, ridiculous, like brother sister fight, and then we add Downtown Coalition, and so I'm really hopeful that your idea of doing the contract at the same time can really help us not be in conflict. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Other questions, comments? All right. You know, for me, I'm glad, Elise, you mentioned NDC as well. Very much a part of this whole thing. You know, again, I would like to see a conversation between the three entities as to how we're going to get through all this stuff. And, you know, since the contract's already expired for the chamber, I mean, I think we got to move on it in some way. But I think in that discussion, I think we really ought to analyze all of the above as to what we're doing. You know, if we're talking about metrics from one, we'll need to get metrics from the other, right? And all three entities. The other thing regarding metrics, and this is off the tangent a little bit. I think I've said this before, but I don't need to see quarterly reports from these entities, to be honest with you. I mean, I think half year is probably plenty good, but that's just me unless there's a requirement. But in this case, the other thing is, and we haven't mentioned, the other source could be economic development money. Doug's going to cringe over there as I say that one. Yeah, but I mean, this is truly economic development. So I think that's another potential source. But I don't, at this point, I don't have a problem with taking it from the TLT money, and particularly bouncing back from COVID and all. So it doesn't for this 1 year. But I hope in this year we can actually hammer this stuff out, and you know, and as Denise says, let's put this thing to bed finally, you know, and get it figured out. So. No, yeah, well, no. I take it from its original source. Yeah, from the source that's proposed.
So a slight clarification, perhaps. I mean, the fact is that when revenue flows from hoteliers or short-term rentals, when it flows into the TLT fund, it's TLT revenue, and then when it's dispersed out, it becomes something different. Then it becomes general fund dollars or whatever it might be. I would say that if council chooses to vote yes to this contract, then I pledge to work with all parties to develop a holistic solution to funding and support on the same timeline, so contracts are all on that same marching orders, starting next cycle.
Point of clarification then, right? So if in essence in this proposal, are we taking 15,000 from Taste Newberg in order to fund the chamber? No, just that straight question.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, because if I may finish, we're taking, we are to answer the question, I have to be precise. We're taking $15,000 from the pool. And that means that the portions that would have gone to Taste would be reduced. It would reduce the amount that Taste would get by $3,450 a quarter, or whatever that number is. So it would. However, the overall amount of available resources for Taste will be increasing. So it's not a simple yes and no.
So I think, okay, given that clarification, from my point of view at the moment, I think it's hard to go back and say to Taste, sorry, we're going to reduce your amount, regardless of whether it's increasing or not. So I think it ought to come from general fund straight away and do it. That's what I would vote. Denise, did you have a comment? Sorry. Looks like you're muted.
No, Will corrected. The TLT does not stay TLT, but it does help us cover the costs of the added tourism in our community that we have to fund ourselves in the city budget, such as like traffic and all of those other things. So no, it's not. It comes from TLT, but it also helps us fund things caused by tourists.
Would it be correct that the general funds have already been earmarked?
Thank you for bringing that up. The other thing about this is that I have been charged to try to live carefully within the city's budget as already passed. And that has not always been the case previously. We don't have a line item identified within the current budget to do this $15,000. So we would be in effect creating a supplemental budget action should we choose to do this. In principle, I generally just don't think that's a good idea for fiscal conservatism. But of course, if it's the will of council, then we will go down that road.
Any further discussion, folks? Go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, but the way you just described it is totally different than the way that I had imagined. Like, I do feel like I need to have clarification of the explanation you just gave on the math. So if you take the 15,000 out, I'm just doing like back of the napkin math for myself, but
So,
because that's not
so
what it
to,
says.
to put it another way, okay? Yes. In simple terms, there will be $3,450 less revenue available to Taste per quarter this year.
Can you say that number again?
I believe
Oh, yeah,
it's
so that's,
whatever 15,000 divided by 4, right? I wish Katie was here tonight.
yeah, so you're taking
Right.
it from the 35%.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
But I have to emphasize the fact that the overall pot
Sure.
is growing dramatically. And that's why I assumed this would not be an issue with Taste.
But I do think the way you just explained it before was different than how you just said it right now. Those are different math numbers.
Well, so
What about the Economic Development Fund? Does it have $15,000 in it?
I do not have those numbers at my fingertips at this time.
I can say, dealing with this topic for the last 7.5 years, I know the skeletons. I've got the cat of nine tails. It has not been pleasant at all, period. Let's be candid. Let's not walk around the bush. So the question in regards to Fund 14, there's money in contingency. So it's the same issue of a supplemental budget. So you've committed money to the hotel. So there's ARPA funds that we're doing the loan to address the SDC issues that we're working on. So we've got that all laid out. If you wanted to take another 15,000 out of the Economic Development Fund, you'd have to take it out of contingency requiring a supplemental budget.
Any other comments, folks?
Rick, I am really at a point where this might be my last year if we cannot get people to get along. I will go out, we can go hire somebody national. I have really had it. This has been ridiculous. It's like kindergarten fighting over the playground. I really have lost this. I can't even believe that adults are coming into this chamber and acting like you're stealing their cookies. They both do fabulous work for our community. And the fact that they cannot respect each other is just, I really am done. I really am done.
Okay, how's about to get this going? Let's get a motion on the table, please, if someone's so inclined.
Mr. Mayor, if I could say it right, I move we accept the recommendation from the city manager.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right, further discussion. Hearing none. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
No.
Get a vote? One no. Yeah, okay. So with that, the motion passes. Correct? Okay, thank you. And let's bring this conversation up soon to try to get it settled. So there we go. All right, thank you all. All right, that is it for, for back to the petition question. Do we need a vote then, or did you get the direction you needed?
Mr. Mayor, I've got the direction that I need. so
Okay,
Thank you.
so that is good. All right, anything else for the good of the order this evening, folks? All righty, thank you all. Have a very good evening, and we'll see you all soon. Back on the 15th here, or sooner, depending. All right.